You're listening to Q Radio. This is the Q Show with me, Paul Rees. That, of course, was Manic Street Preachers and From Despair to Where, one of 33 top 40 singles that the band have enjoyed from 1993's Underloved, I'm Saying Gold Against the Soul album. James, Dean Bradfield is our guest. How the devil are you, James?
Howdy, I'm fine. I'm a wee bit gravelled voice from the effects of a cold in a Czechoslovakian festival, but other than that, I'm very happy to be here, Paul.
Is it anything particularly nasty that's been riddling you at a Czechoslovakian festival?
No, I think I caught this cold in Glasgow from a producer from a radio show. I think I was in the same kind of like inhibited space with the person with lurgy for too long in Scotland.
They're riddled with germs, producer types, James, I can tell you that.
You
now.
English.
For next to nothing. What do you remember about writing that song, From Despair to Air?
I remember it was one of the first songs we wrote for Gold Against the Soul, and I remember kind of like thinking that Nick and Richey were writing slightly in a different style compared to Generation Terrorist, because Generation Terrorist was full of manifestos and credos that we'd kind of like tried to turn into lyrics, whereas kind of with Gold Against the Soul, I think the lyrics were just a wee bit more traditional. And I remember just kind of writing the music to that lyric, and I remember Martin, our manager, saying it could be like Maggie May, it could be a transatlantic #1 in America and Britain at the same time. How wrong that was.
How prescient he proved to be.
Yeah.
Still fond, feel fond about that record, that song?
No, definitely. I mean, it's kind of, it was a strange period, because obviously Gold Against the Soul was kind of the album that inspired the Holy Bible, because we kicked against what we had done on Gold Against the Soul, therefore to do the Holy Bible. Mm-hmm. But you know, we recorded Gold Against the Soul in a big old beautiful studio in Surrey called Hook Manor. And I think I remember at the end we thought we'd lost touch with the blue collar South Walian working class boys that we thought we were after doing that record. We thought we'd become kind of rock beasts, and we'd lost track of our initial mission statement.
Okay, I still like it.
Oh, no. I mean, kind of, no, but there's no way. I mean, kind of, it's very unreliable evidence to actually stand by the emotions you feel every time you finish an album, because you always react against, you know, what you've previously done, and it's just a very schizophrenic kind of existence to actually just people ask you immediately what you feel about what you've just done, and then you just pour forth this diatribe of something, and then you look back at it and you're never quite sure whether it was the most prescient thing you've ever said.
Okay, well, we'll see if you've got some prescient things to say during the course of the next hour or so. We should talk furthermore as well about reacting against the work you've just done. But coming up, James will be evaluating tracks by the likes of The Coral. That'll be the All or Nothing connection right there. The Script, The Wombats, and some bands whose name do not begin with the words the. This, though, is Mark Ronson and the Business International. It's the Bike Song. That was Mark Ronson and the band he's calling the Business International. That was the Bike Song. It features on your new album. Kyle Falconer of The View was on vocals there, and the rapper was one Spank Rock. James?
Yeah, I give that a solid 3 out of 5. And I'm not the biggest fan of what Mark Ronson does. You know, we all draw inspiration from the past, and sometimes we're all guilty of pastiche, but sometimes he's stepped too far in that direction for me. But that has enough of an Arrested Development stroke De La Soul kind of vibe to it for me to like it.
That was succinctly put.
Thank you.
How important is the producer in what you do?
I think the producer always does the best job he can do when he knows what the band's best performance is. So, like, I think there are a couple of producers we've worked with like that in the past. There was a guy called Alex Silva who did the Holy Bible, who engineered the Holy Bible, and he knew what our best performance was. Dave Erringel, who we've worked with, you know, since Gold Against the Soul. He'll always know what my best vocal take is, or what Sean's best drum take is, and you'll know to say stop. Okay, we've got it. Rather than just looking for El Dorado and looking for this, you know, absolute and utterly perfect take, he'll know what our best take is. And Mike Hedges is the same. He just knows what your best take is. And sometimes a producer just tells you when to stop, basically. So knowing what the artist's best performance is, what they can do, and know when to tell an artist to no, you do not need a triangle solo on this song.
I presume the bad ones do none of those things.
Yes.
Last time we met, you were actually going off, you and Nicholas Allen Wire, to interview Rush.
Yes, we were, for Classic Rock magazine, yeah. I mean, that was we just had this bet on before we arrived there. We were just like, there's no way that Neil Peart's going to turn up. Nick said Neil Peart's not going to turn up. I bet Nick £5 that he would turn up for the interview. And of course he didn't, because he is the enigma. He doesn't barely speaks, he just drums and does, and writes the lyrics and stuff. And that was a definite. It was really strange because it was the first time I'd met a singer or interviewed a singer. I've obviously haven't really interviewed many singers in my life, but I'd actually kind of felt some empathy with Geddy because he's always singing somebody else's lyrics, which I've mostly done in the pre-shows,
What would be your prime Rush moment musically?
I gotta go for either for some of the more concise stuff, Closer to the Heart or Fly By Night. I think Farewell to Kings actually might have been recorded on our desk, which is that's a good relic to have.
That's a nice one to drop in. Obviously, we say this in the knowledge that a significant portion of the people listening are going, what on earth are these two babbling on about at this point?
Now you know that Russia are a secret society. That there are millions of people, Paul, out there at the moment, just going, there are more members of this secret society than I'm not on my own.
I want to know what the handshake is, though. Maybe you can demonstrate that later.
Nah, because Neil Peart would have to teach you, and there's no way he could actually get through the inner ring of security to get to him, I don't think.
You're listening to Q Radio. This is the Q Show with me, Paul Rees, and my guest, James Dean Bradfield of the Manic Street Preachers. That was the script. And for the first time, as noted from their forthcoming second album, Science and Faith, which apparently, lyrically, addresses the ills and ails of the recession, which I'm sure is good news to you, James.
Yes, no, kind of people including kind of the current atmosphere and kind of depression into their work is always a good thing, because it's very easy to say you went on a Million Man March but not include it in your work, I think. So that's always a good thing. It's a good development within the script's work, I think. I know you're feeling very happy because you feel as if I'm kind of like I'm torn here because it's from the same management group, so it's really nice to see you so happy watching me garroted. I will give that a 4 out of 5, surprisingly, Paul, because I think they actually moved on a bit from their first album. It's a wee bit more guitar-based, and actually the lyrics do sound different from some, like off the first album you had stuff like Break Even and stuff like that, and the lyrics do sound like they moved on. And I do like the guy's voice. It's good to see some good working class boys actually making music, because it feels as if the music has been colonised slightly by the upper classes these days.
I know exactly what you mean, hence 10 rock toffs that you could name and punch. You said before the forthcoming Manics album, there's an album on the way, Postcards for a Young Man. It's a fine record. You said, or one of you said, one last stab at mass communication.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious what that means, but is it really one last stab at mass communication?
No, it doesn't mean that kind of like, if this doesn't work, then we're not going to ever release another record again. I think what Nick was addressing when he said it is that kind of these days when you're doing interviews, sometimes you're asked about, some of the first questions are, so how does your industry feel now? You lot are really shafted these days, and no one's buying records, no one's buying magazines, blah, blah, blah. And it's just really strange that everybody's obsessed with the way that music is digested rather than actually being obsessed with the music now. Music used to inhabit a massive cultural space in the landscape, and now all we're talking about is how the digital platforms affected the way music is digested. I mean, it's the most tawdry, boring conversation I could ever wish to have. So kind of...
That's my next 3 questions. So I'll just start erasing them now.
But, I just rather... regardless of how music's, kind of like being bought or sold or digested, I'd rather actually still just talk about the music. I don't want to talk about marketing plan. I don't want to talk about being a model for something. And we're just saying... we're defending the art form of the album.
I mean, you said about reacting to the work you've done before, because obviously Journal for Plague Lovers, lovingly compiled though it was, quite a dark record, and we know about the history of it. Was it a reaction to that, or going another way from that?
I think it was, yeah. But kind of the interesting thing was that kind of like we waited an album. We waited one album in between to do a follow-up to Send Away the Tigers, in effect. I think if you look, Everything Must Go, this Is My Truth, Tell Me Yours was a follow-up to Everything Must Go, I think. But we definitely knew that we couldn't follow up Send Away the Tigers straight away. And this idea had taken shape with us that we suddenly had to kind of redress the words that Richey had left us before he disappeared. And it's that kind of quote, it was an idea whose time had come. For years and years it'd been in our subconscious, but we were scared to actually do something with the lyrics. And then when it actually came along, we just had to go with the idea. We had to be chained to it. It had to be a very intense and a disciplined experience. So kind of by the time we'd finished Journal for Plague Lovers, I think naturally we were ready to do something which was a bit more escapist and something that could just uplift us in a quite traditional way. You know, kind of life isn't neat and tidy where you've got to be able to have closure on everything. Do you have closure from your divorce? No, I hate the bitch. You know, some people just say that. Do you have closure in your divorce? No, I fucking hate the son of a bitch. I'm swearing too much now, sorry.
I'll have to let you go now.
All right, gotcha. But no, I mean, some people just have emotions that they keep the same forever. You know, and when Richey went missing, we can't have closure on it. You know, it's just a real, just stupid American notion. You know, we didn't do Journal for Plague Lovers. They're kind of like to get closure on it. We did it because we realised that he left us the lyrics shortly before his disappearance, and there must have been something tacit in that action, I think, you know?
Yeah.
And we did it to kind of like to be in the band with him once more, because that was a great experience. It was intense and disciplined, but it was a great experience to actually get close to being in the band with Richey again. We paid tribute to the words that he left us and to him, and we hope we did the best job we possibly could. But in terms of closure, no, it's not possible sometimes, and you just got to deal with that.
Okay. We'll move on to White Rabbits. They're a Brooklyn band. Their influences include The Specials, The Star Council, Aztec Camera, and this is The Salesman, and in parenthesis, which is always good to say on radio, Tramp Life. That was White Rabbits, which we've been listening intently to during the last 4 minutes. That was The Salesman and Tramp Life. James?
No, I like that. I did like that. I've heard that a couple of times before, and I just felt as if kind of like it just had, I don't know, there's a movement in it, there's a restlessness in it, which I really liked. I'm not saying that that's perfect, but I'll give that a good 3 3/4, and I want to hear more.
I'm watching intently here, James. At the moment, the script are ahead, as managed by
you are just again. Once in my long, hoary rock and roll career, I'm being accused of being a corporate whore.
One thing, though, you are doing, which is also very much old school, there's a 22-date UK tour starting in September, which is calling at places like Carlisle, Blackburn and Lincoln. What's the best bits about doing a massive trek like that and the worst bits?
I think it's the... I can't be bothered going to the worst bits because I think the one thing about playing live that's so positive about it is it's the only part of being in a band now that you can have complete control over. You're... As we talked about before, everybody's always talking about how everything's changed, but when you do a long tour like that, you are kind of aware that you are treading some of the same boards that Ziggy or David Bowie played the same venue, whether it be in Wolverhampton Civic Hall or Derby Assembly Rooms. You know, Thin Lizzy played there, you know, kind of Green Park in the Room or whoever you want to say. And you actually feel as if you're still indelibly linked to like some part of rock and roll tradition when you do a British like theatre tour like that, and you're in control of it. Yeah, there are no outside forces. The digital platform has not matrixed its way into your kind of live environment, and you still feel as if everything's the same, and that's a good feeling because there's nothing you can really add or take away from a rock and roll tour like that can make it better or worse. It is what it is, and it should be like that forever.
You've now got 19 years of recorded history to choose from. So how do you go about putting together a set list now?
I think we are kind of pretty... We're kind of... I'd like to say... Some people would say that kind of like we're kind of like... cheap tarts when it comes to the live arena because we always play the hits. But I like to think that we have a deeply ingrained blue-collar, Springsteen-esque entertainment ethic in the band where kind of if people have paid to come and see us, they want to hear Motorcycle Emptiness, they want to hear La Tristessa, they want to hear If You Tolerate This, Your Children Will Be Next, and they want to hear Motown Junkie, You Love Us. And we'll always play those songs. Always, always, always. Because I know what it's like to go and see one of my favourite bands and they played the entire new album and nothing else. You know, it's always a disappointment. So kind of like I really, you know, kind of, we'll always play, you know, 5 or 6 tracks off a new album. But we'll always play all the hits as well. That's because we believe in the tradition of the footlights.
We're going to take a trip back in time now for no good reason, but for a very fine song. This is Kraftwerk from 1981 and The Model. That was The Coral and More Than a Lover, the second single from their rather fine Butterfly House record. James, there's a connection between you and The Coral as well, so I'm expecting fulsome praise.
You are just like, kind of like, the kind of, what was he called? Was it Roger Cook? Investigative journalism, trying to find out the corruptive, kind of like, connection between me and Revere and Records and giving them good marks.
As I seem to recall that he always ended up getting smacked in the chops by him. So we know how this show's going to end.
Moving on swiftly, I
Yes.
think that's a great record.
It is a great record.
I'll give that a 5 out of 5. And also, it's just brilliant to hear John Leckie back on the horse. John Leckie, oh God, once we ruled in terms of having the best producers and engineers, and John Leckie was part of that. All his work with Simple Minds, early Simple Minds stuff, and then kind of obviously the Bends by Radiohead and stuff. It's just kind of it's great to hear John Leckie just, back in with a great band and getting a great result out of it. So I'll give that a 5 out of 5 because it sounds reinvigorated, John Leckie and the Coral.
Who's inspiring you at the moment, bands-wise?
Things that come to the top of my mind is it's an album by a band called Russian Circles. The album's called Geneva. It is just, if it competed in the Olympics, it would get banned for steroid abuse because it's just it's beyond the Mogwai mark when they get heavy. But I love the record. I absolutely love it. The Band of Horses record is just brilliant because I've had all their records and I think that's a real development. I love that. I love Compliments. I think that's a great single. I do like Wake Up the Nation by Paul Weller. I think that's a brilliant record too.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue. There's some fine choices there. Cool. Anything that's getting you goat in any way, shape or form? That's pricked the optimism bubble?
It's just the show's not long enough.
I think the last time we met, it was Arcade Fire that we subjected to the Nick Wire.
Yeah, Nick has got a bit of a... Yeah, they really seem to get him going in the morning in terms of, he doesn't like him.
Well, I would say we'd talk about the Arcade Fire during the next song, but we will, of course, be giving it our fulsome attention. This is Graffiti 6. They are producer Tommy D and singer-songwriter Jamie Scott, they're both from London, and this is Stare Into the Sun. Graffiti 6 and Stare Into the Sun. James.
Yeah, it's really weird when you get a record like that because, I don't know, everything is beginning to feel like a student union classic from 1987 kind of thing. But it's just there's that weird story for when Motown moved from Detroit to LA. Kind of like when it moved to LA, it lost the Motown sound. Mm-hmm. And if you, there's two box sets, there's the Detroit Motown box set, and then there's the LA Detroit box set. And sometimes you do wonder if Motown as a record company, as an entity, as an idea, had moved to LA and stayed in Detroit, would they ever end up making records that sound like that? That's why I always think when I hear a record like that. Mm-hmm. That's where it leads me to think. I don't know why. So I'll give that.
Is that a thumbs hovering in an uncertain position?
That's hums. That's definitely. There's enough homage in there to a lot of music that I like for me to give it a 3.5.
Okay. We'll go back again to 2003, a track that you can't listen to now without seeing the amazing video that accompanied it. This is Johnny Cash and his version of Trent Reznor's Hurt. That was the Wombats and Tokyo Vampires and Wolves. It's released on the 27th of September. They tour the UK in October. They'll be playing dates at Southampton, Leeds and Glasgow, and almost certainly Liverpool, one would imagine, as well. James?
Yeah, no, I'm going to give that a solid 3.5 out of 5 again, because I think it just... I think you're going to have a bit of a problem when you call your band the Wombats, because you can have a tiny bit of a problem with people taking you seriously to a certain degree, or perhaps they don't care about being taken seriously, which would be laudable kind of thing. Anyway, whatever, I give that a sort of 3.5 out of 5, and it sounds kind of a bit like early Teardrop Explodes, really. It's kind of like, I liked it. It's good.
Could do some horns.
Could do with some horns, yes, and to get that horn sound, they'd have to use Our Desk in Cardiff, of course, because Kilimanjaro was done on Our Desk, so...
That's another record you've just dropped out there. Remarkably, next year's the 20th anniversary. I think I'm right in saying, of the Manics.
It's always a really confusing issue because, I always take the start of the band from when we wrote our first song, was when me and Nick were 15 years old. Mm-hmm. So and then our first rehearsal was just shortly after that when we were 15, so... it would be 26 years on that level. Yeah. But it's 20 years in terms of recording artists, I suppose, yeah.
I mean, you seem to remain incredibly close throughout the whole period.
Yeah, but kind of, I think there's a lot of stuff that's gone on between us and a lot of things we've experienced that matter to us, that makes it more than a band. But I don't expect that to matter to anybody else. There is something which is personal that lots of friends have with each other. I think... if you grew up in the same valley and you chased the same spots in the football team and you chased the same girls and you got beat up at the same discos, that's going to make you close. And if you end up doing your jobs together in your adult life, then of course you're going to be close. Otherwise, you might as well be lizards. You haven't got a heart, kind of thing. I suppose in the end of the day, it's the perfect scenario to actually be in a rock and roll band with your best friends. You know, it doesn't get much better than that, does it, really?
No. All right, we'll move on. This is School of Seven Bells and Heart is Strange. School of Seven Bells, Heart is Strange, released on the 27th of the 9th. That's the 27th of September to you and I. They're a Brooklyn trio, aren't everybody these days? James in Bradfield?
Don't be nasty or nothing. I just didn't get it at all. So it just didn't cut to the heart of me or anything. It just felt like cold shards of ambition, and I just didn't get it.
I'm not sure they'll be putting that one on the posters to advertise the single. What's next for the Manics?
Well, we are doing this grand old rock and roll theatre tour of Britain. And then after that, we're going to Australia and Japan. We haven't been to Australia for 10 years. And around about Ash's time, so we've timed that well, I think, kind of thing as well.
I hope so.
Yeah, no. And then next year, I think we're probably going to do a European tour and stuff and just see where it takes us, basically. So, yeah, that's enough for a bunch of old kind of rock and roll generals as ourselves.
Well, I hope mass communication proves that that's exactly what it is, because it should be.
Oh, dear God, let's not get judged on that quote. OK, thanks.
You always have to hold you up to wire quotes.
Yeah, you do.
That's the way of the world, isn't it? Right, we're going to play it with Some Kind of Nothingness from the album. Ian McCulloch's on the track.
And that was a absolutely gigantic thrill for us because, Echo and Bunnyman was our first gig, myself, Richey and Sean. And to see, Ian McCulloch in our studio singing on the song and just really just digging it out. And he really kind of like, I think he did something like, 10 takes or something over the course of a couple of hours. But he would do a whole take and I thought it was great. And he would just say, no, there's something else I want to find. And then he'd spend like 10 minutes doing David Bowie impersonations, which were amazing. He has this thing, he always calls me Harry Seacombe now. Yeah, you're a short Welsh lad, but you can sing. And he called Sean Paul Merton. I think you might call Nick Gladys or something, I'm not sure. So.
Only fair.
And I bet it was an absolute privilege to have him sing on it. It really was a beautiful experience for us. And there's no word of a lie.
OK, we've reached the end of you rating tracks, James, and The Coral would be your track of the week. Comfortable with that?
Yeah.
OK, thank you again, James, very much. From the excellent Postcards from a Young Man album, this is the Manics and Some Kind of Nothingness.